Manero. Thank you, thank you.
Good night, everyone. We have a saying in the band, you hear music, that is music. Let's give it up for Stanley and the 10 C Plus Nights. 54 years of Quelbe music in the Virgin Islands and throughout the world. It's definitely a pleasure to be a member and definitely a pleasure to be here with you tonight for this wonderful event. A night like this cannot go only just on one entity. An event like this magnitude definitely have to give praises to all that are involved, such as the Virgin Island Council and the Arts, the Red Coast Center for the Performing Arts, ARP in the Virgin Islands, Diageo US VI, and the 10 C Plus Nights Cultural Committee. Give all of those organizations a big, big round of applause. Events as such as these, as the 3rd Annual Folklife Festival, couldn't have happened without the support of those entities. Tonight, Evolution of Quelbe Music, you are definitely in for a treat, as Dr. Larry Larson will be giving you the history on Quelbe music. It is not only a music that you jump up and you dance to, but it's the music of our ancestors. And I hope you bring your thinking cap, because he will definitely give you a lot of information to soothe your mind. You will walk away tonight with a wealth of knowledge of Virgin Islands history and culture. So without further ado, give him a round of applause, Dr. Larry Larson.
Good evening, St. Thomas. Good evening. Can't hear you. Good evening. Good evening. All right. First of all, let me say, on behalf of the 10 Sleepless Nights, we're pleased to be here with you this evening to share with you our interpretation based on research, based on knowledge, based on traditions, based on information passed on from one generation to another, on the history of and the evolution of Quelbe music. Now, first before I go into the presentation, let me tell you a little background information. First of all, the 10 Sleepless Nights, they're not just a band, they're an organization. We are a 501c3 organization, non-profit, and our mission is to preserve and promote the culture of the Virgin Islands and support our young people in terms of those who want to know more about the culture, about the music, and to share it. Let me first of all talk about our scholarship program. Every year we give a scholarship to one or more students who want to go away and study music and come back here and contribute to our community. And we've been doing this about 15 years, and let me just say that several of our students who have gone away, gotten degrees in music. It's only for music. You can't get a degree in science or a degree in history or a degree in art or whatever. It has to be for music. And they have come back, and many of them are music teachers in our school system. We even have one now that's an administrator in our school system. And it's our way of making sure that the next generation has access to this information, has access to this music, has access to the culture of our ancestors. And we do a lot of these events to support our fundraising efforts relative to making sure we can support our young people who want to study music and come back to the Virgin Islands and give back to the community. Well, I just wanted to, because many people don't know about that part of what we do, and we've been doing it for quite a while now, and I just want the folks in St. Thomas to know about it as well. This is 2024. 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago, Bill 25-0056 was introduced to the legislature and passed and signed by the Honorable Charles Turnbull. This bill declared Quelbe the official music, the official traditional music of the Virgin Islands. And for reasons later, I'll tell you why this is important. Okay? Let's remember that. 20 years now, 20 years, that this bill was passed, signed by Governor Turnbull, and this bill made into law declared Quelbe the official music of the Virgin Islands. Now, the music you just heard, you call it Quelbe. Well, what is it really? What is Quelbe? What is it? Well, that's why you're here tonight, to find out where this music came from, how it changed, and most importantly, why it is significant that we keep this cultural art form alive. Some of our cultural art forms are dying, they're disappearing. And this is all part of establishing what we call a Virgin Islands identity. And tonight, you're going to get a taste of how this music changed over generations. One of the things we do, we don't just entertain. We don't just play music. We also educate. And I want you to sharpen your senses tonight, because I'm going to share some stuff with you that you probably never thought about. And you may even look at Quelbe music and other types of music a lot differently, hopefully, after this presentation. Okay, so what is Quelbe? What is it? Well, it's described as a vocal and instrumental style that is a product of country life in the Virgin Islands. It's described as being the reflection of rural and rustic character of the environment in which the creators live. Quelbe was born on the estates where our ancestors worked, in the fields, slept in the slave quarters at night. It's where they basically had a very constricted existence. The estates was where they lived, where they worked, where they danced, where they cried, and for many of them, it's where they died. But what you're going to find tonight is Quelbe portrays all the intricacies of living in Virgin Island society. It was oppressed for much of its existence. And some of the African traditions that were preserved by those who hid these practices by performing them in secret in the hills at night, or camouflaging them in other practices, you're going to see them tonight. Quelbe can be described as a combination of African and European musical expressions that develop uniquely in the Virgin Islands. The rhythms came from Africa, while many of the early melodies, in fact, came from Europe, and then also from Africa. And then eventually most of the more recent melodies were created locally by the descendants of our ancestors. And as we will see this evening, this music reflects the lives and experiences of our ancestors. One of the art forms that was a predecessor to Quelbe is something we call cariso. You folks know what cariso is? Cariso. Now, don't confuse it with calypso. Not the same. This came long before calypso. It's called cariso. And cariso was an African ritual tradition that our ancestors preserved by practicing and passing on this tradition in secret. Keep in mind that in the Danish period here in the Virgin Islands, across the Virgin Islands, the Danish authorities put laws in place which said that you cannot, the enslaved people cannot, they are forbidden from playing drums. They're forbidden from even speaking their African languages. They're forbidden from playing traditional African instruments. In spite of these severe regulations, Cariso survived. And it was through the determination of our ancestors to maintain their cultural heritage. Cariso is an art form where the music and the lyrics are designed to convey a message that was not easily understood by Europeans. It was usually sung by a female, accompanied by one or more drums, and the themes of these lyrics tended to honor local heroes, share local commentary, or even transmit messages, or even news in the form of a secret code. To understand Cariso, you also need to understand the Virgin Islands dialect. It's one of the disappearing art forms that I spoke about earlier. And tonight, I'm pleased to present to you one of our well-respected, distinguished, and talented Cariso singers. Please put your hands together and welcome Miss Sidel Christopher, who's going to tell you more about Cariso.
Good evening. Cariso is a melodic memory of our African past. When the Africans were snatched away from their homeland, they were stuck like cattle on ship to faraway land. Some were kings and queens, philosophers, doctors, engineers. You could imagine that dreadful journey across many oceans and many seas. They brought with them their food, their history, their culture, and traditions. And it was on a plantation that Cariso was born. Carry it so. It was used to tell a story. It was used to send messages from plantation to plantation. It was used for freedom songs of long ago. It was used for the pain and the suffering that they endure. And it was used for gossip. It was the women that sang Cariso, and the men sang Caiso. This was the foundation for many, many genres. For example, Calypso came from Cariso. Hip-hop came from Cariso. Reggae, jazz, all of them came from Cariso. But now I'm going to take you to a journey on the north side of the island of St. Croix. Thousands upon thousands of enslaved Africans were marching to their freedom. The sick, the lame, the blind, marching, marching. Some in carts, women, children with no shoe, marching. You would think that they were getting a gift wrapped in a package, but you would hear them say, we are going for our freedom. Remember I said Cariso sent a message. And this song, you might know it. And it goes like this. Clear the road, you clear the road. Clear the road, let the slave them pass. We coming for our freedom. We don't want no bloodshed, not a drop of bloodshed. All we want is freedom. Give we our freedom. Come, let we go to town. Let we meet the general. The general name is Bodo. He gon' give we our freedom. July 3rd, 1848. Emancipation Day. We remember that day under the leadership of Moses Gottlieb, also known as General Bodo. And the governor of Denmark decided that he's going to give them their freedom. And so he went up on the fort and declared all enslaved Africans will be free today. The Governor von Schulten, stretch he power till he crack and he write down our freedom. July 3rd, 1848. But there was still chaos on the island of St. Croix. But because of 4 women, Queen Mary, Queen Agnes, Queen Matilda, and Bottom Belly, all gathered down by the fort in Frederiksted. And remember I told you carry it so. Sending messages from plantation to plantation. The song goes like this. Queen Mary, where you going to born? Bottom Belly, I say, where you going to born? Don't ask me nothing, tal. Just give me the match and trash. Bars and jailhouses, where we going to burn? 30 years passed. October 1st, 1878. We remember that day, Fireburn Day. They needed better passport, new contract. October 1st, 1878. Did you know that there were many, many Cariso singers before me? We had Mary Catherine, Maud Andreas, Mary Richards, and my mentor, Leona Brady Watson. Now I carry you to another date that's important here in the Virgin Islands, and that is November 1st. Liberty Day, 1915. We celebrate it every year it comes around. Bull and Bread Day. Under the leadership of David Hamilton Jackson. Do my people do? Do my people do? And last but not least, Transfer Day, March 31st, when the United States bought the Virgin Islands from Denmark. But Cariso was also used for gossip, especially the women in the market. They would pong mele. Oh, Lord, why you do that? There was so much stories that happened in the market. When two women get together, you know they're going to talk about each other or talk about somebody else. And so this time, there was a woman looking at another lady and they said, something to mine, oh you got me something to mine. 1 mama, 11 daddy, you got me something to mine. You know what she talking about, right? Let me sing it again. Something to mine, oh you got me something to mine. You got something for me to mine? 1 mama, 11 daddy, she got something to mine. She don't know who her daddy is, who the father be. Something to mine, oh you got me something to mine. 1 mama, 11 daddy, you got me something to mine. Something to mine. I hope I have shared our history, your history, with you all. Thank you so much. Thank you. Granny, oh, oh, my Granny Elizabeth. If you want some jojo to wash your Tanya girl, come here, you so get some.
Yes, Edna.
Please give Mr. Del Christopher a strong round of applause. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but this is March. And every March we celebrate Virgin Islands History Month. You just got some Virgin Islands history through music. I don't know if you realize that. 1848, annual holiday, July 3rd, Emancipation Day. Liberty Day, the Hamilton Jackson, November 2nd, 1st. And also October 1st, Contract Day, which reflects 1878 and the fire burn. She also mentioned Transfer Day, March 31st. All part of our history, all part of our past, and all part of our music. There's more to Quelbe that meets the eye. And one of the other art forms that gave rise to Quelbe is an art form that came as the estate celebrated certain holidays every year. Usually New Year's Day, other religious holidays through the year, like an Easter Monday, a Whit Sunday, and so on, Christmas Day, and on the estates, some of the restrictions were relaxed. And one of the art forms that became part of the foundation for Quelbe is an art form that we call masquerade. Now, you're going to get a special treat tonight because masquerade most people don't understand how masquerade developed. And I shared with you earlier that they weren't allowed to play certain instruments, but yet we have masquerade. Well, how did it come about? And while there were restrictions against using African drums and African drumming, we find that our ancestors did have access to other instruments which they were allowed to use for the amusement of the estate owners. And one of the trends that happened across the Caribbean was that wherever there was a colony, and there was a colony here in the Danish West Indies, controlled by the King of Denmark, they also had a military presence. And what we're going to see is that our ancestors were introduced to different instruments and different types of music, which they modified to meet their African thirst for complex rhythms and faster tempos. Under Danish King Frederick III, the Royal Life Guard Music Band was established in 1658. This is in Denmark. And this was the beginning of what was called a military fife and drum corps. And this became part of the Danish military establishment, and many of the other nations who had colonies in the Caribbean, the British, the French, the Dutch, for example, also made sure that they had a strong military presence to keep control of the black population. The drum and fife units became part of most European military organizations. And the military presence in the Danish West Indies presented enslaved Africans with another way to express themselves musically. Now, since traditional African instruments were forbidden, they recreated and accepted some of the European instruments. They made drums out of barrels covered with goat or calf skins, and flutes made from bamboo or papaya reeds. Since these musicians living on these estates were self-taught, their instruments were homemade, and their style was somewhat original, as initially they tried to fashion instruments from the European versions. And then they began to augment the military instrumentation with some African instruments. The Danish fife and drum corps helped to inspire what eventually became known as masquerade, or what we in St. Croix call Wild Indian music. And masquerade dates back to the Virgin Islands, to the early 1700s, when certain times of the year, as I said, they were allowed to take part in certain types of celebration. St. Croix, especially this agricultural way of life, was favorable for the development of this type of cultural expression. What we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate specifically how military music evolved into masquerade. And what we're going to do is we're going to play a standard military fife and drum selection, and then you'll see how masquerade evolved. Okay? I want you to listen to me very carefully and look at how the music transitions from the military to the African. Please, another round of applause for the Aye Masqueraders. I hope that you're able to see how the music transitioned from the military, very strict cadence, to something a little bit more rhythmically complex. This is what African music is about. It's complex rhythms, and this is what life was like for our ancestors. Now, this presentation is called the Evolution of Quelbe music. Now let's get into that. Quelbe instrumentation, I'm going to take you back 200 years. Before lights, electric lights, electronic sound systems, modern day conveniences. We're going back in time. Quelbe music is comprised of different rhythms played by different instruments. And now we're going to share with you how this music sounded like 200 years ago. And we're going to first introduce to you the instruments and the individuals who play the instruments as it happened again a long time ago. First, one of the most distinguishing instruments in Quelbe music, which has sort of given the music, the genre, a name we don't like, but we'll talk about it. This instrument began its existence as a vegetable. A vegetable. It's called a squash. And I'm going to ask Mr. Herman Juni Thompson to show you what a squash looks like. Can you see it? And I'm going to ask him to play the squash so you can see what it sounds like. Okay, thank you. Give him a round of applause, please. Mr. Herman Thompson, our squash player. Now, let me get this off my chest. We believe that it is hearing this instrument that caused some people to refer to this as scratch music, or the bands as scratch bands. Most Quelbe musicians take offense to this terminology. We prefer to use the term that we all agree describes this music. It's not scratch music. We call it Quelbe, and we maintain that. But we believe it was hearing this instrument, sometimes maybe a little louder than others, caused visitors to describe it as that, and somehow that name stuck. But we as Quelbe musicians don't like to use the term scratch. Okay? We prefer to use it, the proper term, Quelbe. So that's off my chest, let's move on. The next key instrument that's very important in Quelbe music that you find in very little other genres of music. It's a three-sided instrument made of steel, iron, or some sonorous metal. We call it the steel. I want to ask Mr. Kenneth Henderson to show the steel. It's a triangle. It's also called a triangle, but we don't call it a triangle. We call it a steel because it's made from steel, and it's just a traditional word we've used. But it's played in very, very few types of music, but the triangle is a very key part of Quelbe music. So I'm going to ask Mr. Henderson to let you hear what it sounds like. Give him a hand, please. Okay. Now, let me point out that these two instruments came out of Africa. Okay? The squash and the steel. Little known fact is that Africans were involved in developing metallurgy long before they're given credit for. Okay? Another instrument that's important is an instrument that generates the bass tones. And this instrument was originally made of bamboo, but of course we get modern and we use more modern types of resources. Usually it's from a thick piece of bamboo, which is, the thicker it is, the lower the notes are. And we actually call it a pipe because in the 20th century, they used the pipe of an automobile to recreate this African instrument. Now, I understand that in St. Thomas you all have a special name for it. Am I allowed to use that terminology on St. Thomas? What is it? Okay, you say you know what it is, huh? Okay. Yeah, the so-called, you're not playing you're playing the pipe. Mr. Gilbert Hendricks, who's also our bass player, plays the, what kind of pipe? Yeah, that. Let's see what it sounds like. Give him a round of applause, please. Thank you. Now, another instrument that also came from Africa, and many people don't know this. People associate this instrument with country western music, bluegrass music, Dixie music, and so on. But actually, the banjo is an African word for an African instrument that was modified when it was brought here many moons ago. And Mr. Eldred Christian and his son Kevin Christian are our banjo players. I'm going to ask Edgy to ring some strings so you can hear what the banjo sounds like. I think Edgy's a Sabanero, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so is Gilbert. That's right. But we kind of stole both of them from you guys. Last but not least, in terms of the original Quelbe instrumentation, is the flute. And again, another instrument made from bamboo. We also it's called the fife. And it was a homemade instrument. And our illustrious leader, Stanley Jacobs, our flute player, fife player, is holding up the fife. And I'm going to ask him to let you see what it sounds like. Please a round of applause for Stanley. Now, you're going to get a chance to hear what this music sounded like. These are all acoustic instruments. This is what Quelbe music sounded like before the dawn of modern instrumentation, electricity, and so on. So hear the music the way our ancestors heard it. That is the predecessor of the modern Quelbe sound that you hear now. That's how it sounded with all acoustic instruments, all homemade instruments by our ancestors. This is the instrumentation, the rhythms, and the music that gave Quelbe its foundation. Now let me just say one more thing about this. All of these instruments, except for the flute, are what we call rhythm instruments. Even the banjo, it plays chords, but it plays chords in a rhythm. And these are complex rhythms that blend together that gives Quelbe that sweet, sweet sound. The flute, we say it just plays melodies, but not really. The way in which the melody is played like a rhythm. It's punctuated, it's accentuated, and it plays in cadence with the rhythm that the other instruments are playing. So Quelbe music is all rhythm, with some melodies sometimes emanating on top. But that is the beauty of this instrument, of the instruments and the music. Now we're going to sort of expand our view a little bit and look at how the modern sound evolved. Okay. The modern Quelbe sound is a result of changes in society. And what am I talking about? This is what I'm talking about. Culture is not static. It doesn't remain the same. Culture changes as times change, as the availability of instruments and resources and other accessories are made available. People begin to embellish the music a little bit more by adding and trying to make the sound contemporary to what the community is accustomed to. And our Quelbe music is the same thing. This music, over the past 54 years, I've seen it evolve from a very basic stage to a very more complex stage. And I'm sure what we're talking about. Number one, we added some other instruments. One of the instruments we added to help with the rhythm is also another African instrument that came to us by way of Cuba. They're called congas. And they're usually played on either one or set. Again, playing a rhythm. Again, more drums, more rhythms that become part of adding to the dynamics, adding to the complex rhythms that make up the music. And Mr. Kendall Henry is our conga player. I'm gonna ask him to play the conga so you can see what it sounds like. Give my round of applause, please. Kendall Henry. Now, oh gosh, the guy that was playing the pipe, I'm gonna leave it that way, okay? He also plays another instrument that generates the bass notes. We use a modern electric bass guitar, and that now replaced the pipe because I'll tell you, he complains about what the pipe does to his lips. And I think his wife complained that he couldn't kiss her as much as he'd like to because of when he played the pipe, it would hurt his lips. I'll just leave it at that. So Mr. Gilbert Hendricks is going to show you what the bass does to the Quelbe music. Mr. Hendricks. Gilbert Hendricks. Thank you. Now, I've asked Casey to also demonstrate another instrument we've added, which is, again, to help with the rhythm, help with the drums, the modern day drum set, which again adds another dynamic to the music by adding additional drums, rhythms, cymbals, hi-hats, toms, and so on. Mr. Henry. Thank you. Give him a round of applause. Last but not least, again, 21st century. We've added the synthesizer, electric piano, organ, whatever you want to call it, to add more rhythm, more chords, more dynamics to the music. Mr. Shelton Schultepren is our keyboard player. Let's see what it sounds like. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you for your warm reception. Now, we're going to demonstrate some other things to you with this music. One of the things that music does is that it's a way of expressing your experiences. And in Quelbe music, as I shared between the beginning, this music is a reflection of what people were experiencing. And we've identified a number of themes that are consistent in this music and any type of music. There are themes of love. You can express feelings of love through music. You can express feelings of love through Quelbe. You can express feelings of disgust or distaste for someone. You can express a way in which you may want to protest something. You can express infidelity, promiscuity, all sorts of different topics through music. And through this presentation, we're gonna show you, because we're gonna force you to do something that most people don't do, and that is to listen to the lyrics. Most people hear the beat, and the feet start moving, and that's all that's good. Today, we're gonna ask you to listen to the lyrics of some of the songs we're gonna present to you, and show you how this music represented the life, the experiences, the pain, the suffering, the heartbreak of our ancestors. We're going to begin with a love song, and hopefully you know this song, and I'm going to ask that if you know it, sing along.
is a